Welcome, everyone. Welcome back again. This is the last study buddy session of the Rabies Educator course certified by the Global Alliance for Rabies Control, for which we make the course materials accessible and hopefully a bit more interesting through these interactive study sessions facilitated by the Stray Buddy team. I want to thank Vriti again for being there today. And as you all know, my name is Annelieke Laninga, and I'm the initiator of the Stray Buddy program. So the last two modules of the session can be summarized with the topic, becoming an effective rabies educator. Over the past few weeks, we've learned about rabies, first of all. We've learned about bite prevention. We've learned about post-bite response. We've learned about responsible dog care, dog vaccinations, the importance to eliminate rabies, to basically make sure that the dogs are safe around us. So all of that has been covered, and today we will, run you through modules 4 and 5, the last two modules, discussing first the role of rabies educators. And educators are, it's a big word. I think everyone can educate others, even one person, right? So just one, to raise more awareness, we just need to spread this very important information. And so the question in module 5 is how to convey this more or less life-saving information to others. So you're nearing the end of the course, and from today onwards, I invite you not to see yourself as a student, but basically as an ambassador. How to educate others, how to sensitize others on prevention and elimination of rabies in the Indian context. So now it's time to start thinking of how we can do that, help to counter all those myths that we saw at the beginning when we started, and misconceptions. We need to get more and more people out there who are countering those misconceptions, because they are really fear-inducing and not helping to resolve the problems. And we can all help to reduce the fear, and we can contribute to eradicating rabies in our own little way. So you may think, who am I? But everyone can at least reach a few people, and that multiplies that way in our own capacity. So today, of course, you have seen all the modules, right? And this is what I ran you through. We'll have the test after this left, the exam left, and then you have a certificate in your hands. And if you wanted to go out and do a workshop or some other education session, then I'm available for guidance, and we will talk about how we do that at the end today. So today, again, we'll go for the first hour through the materials and do the final post-module quizzes. Make sure you're ready for the final exam. And we have a very exciting, I'm really happy again that we have found an expert to come for the Q&A at 7, just after 7. Dr. Asher Jesudoss is founder and director of the Aloha Ahimsa Foundation and a member of the Delhi Animal Welfare Board. So he has huge experiences in education, also works with educational institutions, and I'll introduce him later. You've seen his bio on the WhatsApp group. So very excited, and hope that you can also stay on and that we get a few more people to join. By the end of today, you will know more about, how to explain why rabies education saves lives. The knowledge saves lives, but only if it gets shared. And all that knowledge is available, and there is a lot of confusion, as we know. So we need to recognize how we convey that information to which audiences, which opportunities do we get in our day-to-day life, and which messages can we send out to each, target group or audience, or, who is in front of us, who are we talking to? What are the characteristics of, a good educator, or somebody who manages to communicate as well? We can practice a little bit also in this session. We do some interactive work today, and you can begin thinking of how you can do that in your own life. So as usual, I will keep the session interactive, and I ask you to use these emojis, thumbs up, thumbs down, for yes and no, and maybe some in the chat, write your questions there with a question mark. We'll go through that. We can ask questions to Dr. Asher. So if you put a question mark in front of it, then Vriti will know that she needs to take it on in the question and answer document for Dr. Asher. And also, please make sure that you're logged in the GARC education platform. If you haven't logged in yet, go to the WhatsApp group. You find the login link for the GARC education platform in the group info, the group description of the WhatsApp group. It's the second link of the GARC. So in case you haven't logged in, do so now so that you can do the quizzes while we are taking you through the materials. Okay. Now, this is a question I have for you to start with. So, turning into educator, from a student into educator, do you feel ready to educate your community at the moment? Up, yes. Not yet. Not sure. Not sure. I can see some emoticons coming. Not sure. Okay, so I really hope that at the end of this session, you'll be more sure. I would like to also know if you can write in the chat, why are you not sure? What is it? What is the challenge? Just write one thing that you're facing that you're not sure of, or maybe you're insecure about, so that we can address that and make sure that we cover that in this session today. Anybody? Let me see if I can see the chat box. Yeah. Okay. Lack of confidence, and also sometimes I feel insufficiency in the knowledge. Okay. I hope that after, the modules that we've gone through, that there is a bit more clarity on the knowledge. Anyone? Helene, people feel more comfortable listening to health professionals. Okay, well, you can utilize that. Let's think of how we can utilize that. And I have an example with some photos also showing later on in the session. I'll come back to that. But a good point. All right, let's continue. If you could please open your GARC Educator platform and do the quiz for the pre-module quiz for module 4. Just take 2 minutes. And when you're done, just write your score in the chat so that we know that you're done, and then we can continue. I'll just give you a minute. Or you can just write done whenever you get through. Yeah. Another comment in the chat, people will outright be rude or dismissive when it comes to animal welfare. Yeah, it's very hard, right, to open that door to get somebody to basically listen to sensible, scientific, even fact-based information. So that point is taken. A lot of emotions are there around animal welfare, and then it becomes very hard. We come across as more dog animal pro, hence our knowledge is easily dismissed. Okay, so that is that's a point. I always, and Chavi, you know it, I always say, if I love a dog, am I then put in the corner of a dog lover. If I love my husband, am I a human lover? See, there are people that I love and there are people that I don't like. And there are dogs maybe and other animals that we love and that we may not like also. I mean, this is life. This boxing of loving and hating creates a polarization that is the agenda of some. In our society, people are benefiting from polarizations, right? Now, are we fueling that by positioning ourselves as dog lovers also? We should maybe also stop using the word lover, dog lover. And that's a bit difficult, but you can say I'm a pet owner or pet parent, I'm a caregiver, I'm feeding community dogs. Just talk about what you do. I have rescued dogs, but lover and hater is not very helpful. And this is one of the things that we can start with ourselves to try to get that polarization bridged, but also start talking about the public health and safety aspects. I think GARC, the Global Alliance for Rabies Control, the module gives you a lot of arguments and points. Maybe you can go through the manual and look which points are there to benefit people and benefit indirectly, of course, or directly the animals. But public health, public safety is the story we should basically tell, even though we are on the animal side. It's, of course, in the benefit of everyone. So use the language more towards what people benefit from it. And I know everyone is very selfish and it may sound ridiculous, but that's the language we should maybe start using. How does it benefit residents? How does it the welfare of the residents for the welfare, the Residents Welfare Association is what they're interested in. This benefits directly people, right? So that would be one way of putting it across. We'll get to that later. So I guess you've all gone through the quiz. If there's any questions, you can again post it in the chat. And I wanted to have a little discussion here also on the importance of rabies education. We have bad news, of course. It is 100% fatal disease, and it is very scary in that sense. Once symptoms occur, we all know that we don't have to fall sick if we do the right things. And that's the good news. It is 100% preventable. In India, it is endemic to rabies. So we all should know this knowledge is super important. So the question is, why do people still die from rabies if it is preventable? Anyone, just give one word or quick short sentence. You may unmute yourself because we're not with many people, so you may also speak if you're more comfortable than typing. Why do people still die from rabies if it is preventable? Anyone? Yeah, lack of awareness or attention. Lack of knowledge, that's one. Definitely, that's the major point. Delayed treatments, but also all those myths and misconceptions. That has to do with the fact that people don't have the right knowledge and the fear, the emotion that is on it, right? The fear, they may also not know it's fatal indeed. So they don't take it serious to do the proper post-bite treatments. Also, the dogs are not vaccinated, right? There's a problem, of course, with the government programs, but there are vaccines available, and we can play a role in getting those vaccines to the dogs, channelizing them, maybe not ourselves vaccinating. And then the question is indeed, how can we as ordinary people prevent rabies? What can an ordinary person do? Now, this is a rehearsal question for the last 3 modules. Oh yeah, Arlene, the affordability of immunoglobulin. Yes, in Delhi, there are hospitals that give it for free, the government hospitals, if needed. Financial considerations, yes. Time is an issue. Government facilities, yes. Free at government facilities, but not everywhere in the country, maybe even. So what can we as ordinary people do? I'm just rehearsing the key points of the previous sessions. Yeah, collect a database where help can be achieved. That would also be really good to have to collect some information, how to, where to go exactly, right? In your neighborhood, have a local database ready. That's great. Thanks, Helene. That's a really good point. I just wanted to repeat, these are the 5 points that are covered in the modules. Improve animal welfare. Make sure that the dogs are healthy, safe, right? And the welfare also makes the dogs are by nature they're conflict avoiding by nature. But there are situations in which the stress is so high that they don't see any other way, right? So improve animal welfare will be preventative goes a long way. And preventing dog bites also has to do with the language, the dog language. Educate people on that. Wash, disinfect wounds in case a dog bite happens. Seek the post-exposure prophylaxis and follow the protocol, or even the pre-exposure prophylaxis for those of us who work with the dogs. Vaccinate the dogs and increase awareness. That's the last point there. I just wanted to continue on the benefits, why awareness on rabies is so important. It sounds okay. I have created this slide. Maybe also you can use this as a visual, or you can take points from it and use that whenever it's needed. So the benefits of improved awareness are, of course, that improved animal welfare leads, or awareness actually of animal welfare. What is animal welfare? These 5 freedoms, they're actually very interesting to go through with different, people like caregivers, even if you can discuss what are the 5 freedoms, what do they look like, and improve the animal welfare through better care, nutrition, health, and living conditions for the dogs. Of course, it's not always easy, and there are so many out there, right? And we're doing what we can, and we feel overwhelmed on rescue. I would say let's start focusing on prevention. And prevention of health issues can be done with much lower budget than rescue. Rescue is very often very expensive. So the more dogs we can prevent from getting maggot wounds by treating a smaller wound, and be more aware and have more caregivers on the ground to actually do a lot of prevention, to deworming tablets, etc. A lot can be done on the prevention side, the better. And yeah, so bite incidents can be reduced if we know the dog body language better. The increased prep and compliance, of course, it leads to less human deaths. So that's the direct benefit there. And the enhanced dog vaccination leads to less spreading of the disease. So ultimately, eradication and safer communities. I hope these visuals are useful. I know that there are on the internet more visuals that you can use, so you can search, but I'm happy to share this one as well. So now we come to the point that we have different people that we talk to and different messages to send out. So who are we exactly educating? Who are we exactly raising awareness with or sensitizing about rabies? Now imagine you complete this course, you do the final test and the exam, you get the certificate, and you want to go out at least to do something to spread this knowledge. Who would be the first person or the first group of persons you would like to talk to? If you can think of going out basically next month and organize something to spread. Friends and family, yes, great. I think, Helene, that's what we all need to do. See if we can have some setting, or even informally reach out and share information with friends and family. Direct family. School children, yeah, if you have an opportunity, school children are very at an impressible age. And of course, if you have an opportunity to talk to children, they're the best because they're the future generations. So know your target group. Who is your target group? That's the first question. And what is relevant information for them? School children, different information. Friends, family, different information. Caregivers, different information. If you talk to security guards, you could actually go out and speak with the security guards or organize an info session in your neighborhood if you have a good contact within your RWA, or, that really, really helps. You could even talk to domestic workers, but again, the messaging will be slightly different. Even veterinary health professionals, and we've seen that even the human doctors, in one of the messages we were discussing, was it you, Helene? Who was it again? Or was it Sri Kavya? Anyway, the human doctors didn't know exactly which protocol to follow. And then Dr. Niti Bhutani said that she got advice from her vet to vaccinate her dog and give 5 shots, like the post-bite treatment that humans get. And the dog was bitten again, and again he needed to get 5 shots. And this is besides the protocol, and to give a dog 10 shots in a short period of time is also probably not very healthy. So all of this needs to be, we can share proper information, and information is out there. I'll give you posters, I'll give you flyers, I'll give you links that you can even share with health professionals, that you can share. The decision tree for health professionals is out there. I shared it on the WhatsApp group already. For the World Health Organization has put a decision tree in place, and that's a very nice and info chart that you can share with human doctors also. So if we're not talking about to everyone in the same way, now we need to distinguish who are we going to give which messages as priority, because people will not pick up. They only pick up that what is relevant for them. And we'll go through this a little bit. So if I say that, it needs to be relevant, we very often hear people are easy to shout, complain. It's very hard to get a listening ear, right? So to get that listening ear, we also have to really listen to their problems. What is the problem that they are facing, and how can we help them to resolve that problem? So with neighbors and general public, I would say, just anyone without a specific role in animal welfare, maybe friends, maybe family, maybe neighbors, the key messages, what they should know about rabies is, what is it? Like, what is rabies? There's a lot of misconceptions about it, right? How does it really spread? Because people think that, any bite is equal to rabies. All of these misconceptions. These are the things that general public or friends or family are worried about. So you can educate them. How they can avoid getting bitten, even what to do when a dog attacks, and in the unfortunate event that there is a very strict treatment protocol, and we don't need to teach them, but they have to follow it. Whatever the doctor is saying. So after a dog bite, of course, wash the wounds, but then go to the facility and follow the protocol, right? So these are the 5 key points I would suggest that you would keep in mind when you talk to friends and family or general public or your neighbors. Now for school children. See, school children, we already saw that in the previous module. Also, there were workshops on, safe behavior around dogs, what to do when a dog attacks, stand like a tree, or if you fall on the ground, you need to protect your vital organs. So be a rock, roll up like a ball and protect certain parts of your body. Post-bite response also for children, very important to know. Wash the wound. Maybe that only, wash the wound, go to the doctor. Simple. Wash the wound in 15 minutes under running water. Make it simple, make it fun, make it nice. Also for the kids, do some demos, do some whatever, that we will get in how to convey these messages. But this is a little different from the other messaging to neighbors. Now, pet owners. Specifically for pet owners, we can talk about pet vaccination. A lot of pets are not vaccinated and they're not immune to rabies, right? If they go out, if they get bitten, you never know. And people may not take that super serious. Dog bites are not very often treated properly, right? So your pet may actually get rabies if you don't vaccinate them. So pet vaccination, animal welfare. There's a lot of animal welfare issues. We looked at 5 freedoms. There may be a lot of pampering going on, but dogs may be under a lot of stress because they're misunderstood, even by their loving pet parents. The hugging, the kissing, and the cuddling is not always what a dog needs, right? They tolerate you because they love you and they know you take care of them. They feel safe with you. they allow you to, doesn't mean that they like it, and we don't pick up on the signals if they indicate that they don't like it, or they're not even allowed to give a distance creating signal. They're not, you're not supposed to growl at me. Yeah, like that, right? So we suppress all those signals. So animal welfare is a lot to win with pet parents. Preventing dog bites, canine communication. I think these are the key things: pet vaccination, animal welfare, and canine communication for pet parents. Then if you talk to other animal feeders and caregivers, again, there's a whole different messaging. I would personally focus on the pre-exposure prophylaxis. A lot of people do not know. Get your 3 shots. And in case you get bitten and there is a suspected case, you are protected already. You have your titer up. No need for immunoglobulin. No need to be so fearful and worried. You do need to get your post-treatment in place. You need to know that you need to wash your wounds. Again, 15 minutes under running water with soap is for everyone. And then 2 shots, max 2 shots. 2, if a doctor says 3, follow it, go through with 3. But otherwise, keep annual boosters. If you're not bitten by any dog, still every year get a 1 annual booster shot. That is, I think, the main thing that we should communicate with the animal caregivers and feeders. And of course, how to be safe around dogs as well. We think we know dogs so well, but I don't think the subtle distance creating signals and calming signals are known, and even how we can use our body language to indicate a lot to the dogs. We infringe on their freedom a lot. Sometimes we think that we are, immune to everything, and then they love us so much we can do anything with these dogs, but that doesn't work like that, right? So there's a lot to win still in the interaction. And when we come in the scene, they love us a lot. They get excited. When the excitement comes, we feed these dogs. These dogs sometimes tip over and start chasing a motorcycle only when we are there, right? So what is the interaction? How do we affect the dogs in our presence? A lot can be done and said about that. And then the vaccinations, the herd immunity, we can draw in those vaccines if we know where to get them from, and we can keep the record so that we can show that there is at least a 40%, continuously minimum 40%, so target 70, and then you can fall back to 40 and go up and down between 40 and 70%. Right, so this is another message, key message for the RWA executives or community leaders. If there's no RWA, there may be some senior or some other body, management of a campus. They are interested in sometimes in removing the dogs, right? Now, unfortunately, the university campuses, they have to remove the dogs at some point, but only after shelters have been made available by the government, and that's still far away. So right now it's not happening, but we should still educate them that that also doesn't work. You can send your dogs to shelters, but these are vaccinated and sterilized dogs. And around our campus, we are not on an island. Those dogs will come in. It is always a porous boundary. These walls are never solid. So why doesn't it work to remove those dogs? We should educate the campus management on that as well, and make sure that all the dogs are sterilized and vaccinated, mass dog vaccinations on the campuses. And in your area, the dogs will be a buffer around you. Rabies will not come. And if possible, convince them to have an animal welfare committee and make sure the caregivers, feeders are on this committee. Okay, so was this useful? I thought I didn't want to talk so much. I thought it would be nicer if you would give your inputs, but unfortunately that didn't work on the slides. Yeah, great, good. I see a thumbs up. Any questions? And these are suggestions. Of course, every situation is different. Every neighbor is different. But I'll share these slides, of course. We have them in the summary also, the session summary. You can take these down. Okay, I would again draw you back to the education platform because I promised that you'll be done and ready for the final exam by the end of today. So open the GARC platform and take 2 minutes and do the post-module quiz for module 4 plus pre-module quiz for module 5. I'll just give you 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And if anyone has questions, post them in the chat. And if you can just say done or write your quiz score in the chat so I know that that we can continue again. Okay, I think we'll slowly move on and you can take more time if needed right after the session to complete if needed. Okay. We just discussed the different messaging. The message doesn't change, but the audience changes depending on who we talk to, right? So once we know what we should communicate to whom, that's already half the job done. But how do we make those people listen? And indeed, Chavi, you're also rightfully saying that sometimes they just don't want to listen to because they put you in a corner in a box that will label with a lover, dog lover, and therefore you're a hater, human hater. We should try to get away from all of that. So how do we get them to listen to us? Maybe the setting can be created, or maybe an expert can be called in. Now, this is just for fun, but we did a workshop here with Harlene, you said health professional. This is a veterinarian student in their last year. They were doing an internship at an NGO, All Creatures Great and Small, where we collaborated and had a workshop for caregivers on first aid, including also zoonotic diseases, contagious diseases. What is all of this? The most interested participant was Papu, the dog, because she had little treats in her pocket. So that made the dog listen, right? I mean, this is a metaphor for having something interesting for your audience. The fact that the dog is sitting so attentively there is not because he's listening to the symptoms of kennel cough or the symptoms of rabies, but because of the treats. So now I would like to go back to your challenges, indeed. Can you say one more question, one more thing you're struggling with, or something that you would face, you are afraid that you will face when you go out to educate? It comes back to the first question. Is there anything else that you would like to share right now? Will I have any challenges to make people listen? Yeah, fear of people's resistance. Yeah. So why would we go out if people don't want to listen, right? Yeah. So maybe we can create those circumstances also. And I also am a caregiver of community dogs, and we're getting a lot of negativity, right? When we are feeding dogs, people say, don't feed here. Why are you touching? Why are you cuddling? Why are you not in front of my house? Even if we're pet owners, we walk our dogs, and why you walk your dog here? If we have it off leash, naturally we get complaints. They're afraid that the dog will attack them, the potty, and all these things. There's so much of negativity that we ourselves also become cup full. We discussed that, our stress levels also go up, right? And we also go, instead of having a fun walk with our dogs, we said like, who is going to say something today, right? So we're already in the mode of receiving negativity, and then we start reacting to that, right? So our own mood internally is also already set. We have an internal fear, people will, come to me and etc. So in that state, we may not be the right person to educate. So either we have to get out of that situation and put ourselves in a different situation, or we have to try and still take deep breaths and do some inner work and try to stay positive and try to see, the other person also has an argument. Let's listen to that person. Try to be empathic. Try to say, okay, I got you. I hear you. I see what you mean. Let's see how we can resolve this. Sounds very mature, and it's not always so easy to do. But what's if you think of a teacher or somebody who was conveying information in a very inspiring way? Can you think of something that was a person you wanted to listen to? You were drawn to listen to that person. What characteristics? Can you write something? A good teacher, your favorite teacher, who inspired you. What would their characteristics be? Someone who can get the job done. So someone you look up to because they're actually skilled or experienced is probably what you're saying, right? Yeah. Someone who's relatable to most people. Responsive, acceptance, energy, motivated. Those are a lot of good words. I would say an energetic, yes. The energy, the enthusiasm. Somebody, maybe a good storyteller. People like to hear a story, right? The setting on the street is not always the right setting to tell stories, but we can create storytelling settings. We could maybe even screen a movie somewhere and do some storytelling with children, or, get a teacher in from outside in our neighborhoods and do an activity like that. So a good storyteller. Work with visuals. People don't like text on slides, etc. I mean, I'm trying to have some visuals in my slides as well that stays with you, right? Practical examples. Give a lot of practical examples, like, okay, this is what worked in this situation. Maybe we can try this, very practical. A person who people listen to also asks questions. So instead of getting into defense, maybe we start asking questions. That somebody comes and throws something. What do you mean? What is it exactly? I don't understand exactly where the problem lies, but if you could explain it once again, without being offensive, of course, but, ask questions. Be respectful, confident, try to be patient. And we lose our patience a lot because we are in it very emotionally, right? And this self-reflection. Try to bring some humor. I know Chavi can also, I love when, a little bit of humor, right? A little bit of humor. Relate to your neighbor as a neighbor, and, try to bring some humor in. I don't know if the neighbor gets more upset, but you need to, be sensitive to that. Your body posture, the eye contact that we make, try to be humane and compassionate. Very hard. I mean, definitely very hard in certain situations, but create those situations, not in the moments where it's very emotional, but maybe in another moment. Go to see if you set up a workshop or a session with an external expert, as I said. Okay. I just clicked through a couple for inspiration. Workshops with neighbors in a park could be held. right? So these are just inspirational things, and it may not work in your area, but these could work. A workshop with young children. This was about poster making activity, but we spoke about dog language as well in a very simple way for the children. Happy dog, angry dog, sad dog, like that. And we took a lot of photos and we did a quiz. This is what another way, a workshop where people can actually draw and interactive. Of course, this is with all the youth in the school about one health, one future, a topic where animals, humans, and the environment were connected. So make it wider sometimes, make the topic wider than just the dogs. Again, this is pet parents. It was in one of the neighborhoods where pets were allowed off leash in a small area, specific kind of a dog walk park. And we had some chai and we talked about pets and poop because pet parents are facing that issue. And again, this is from that workshop for caregivers. It was a workshop on first aid, and we also had vet students there. So you can call in, maybe see if you can see an intern, a veterinary student coming in, talking about these issues. I think, Chavi, if you're still there, you see yourself here. But there was also an RWA president. Now, she was, by the way, a pet parent as well as an animal caregiver, a community caregiver. But this is a group of other caregivers, and we had a meeting with that RWA president. I think it's a good idea to meet presidents of RWAs. I hope this was a little bit inspirational as well, and see how you can create it in your day-to-day situation. I don't know exactly what is suitable for you, but hopefully this is a little inspiration. Now, I wanted to go back to the slide deck, but if you can't edit, then there's no use. Think about a kind of a setting where you have a workshop, or, kind of you get people together, not in the heat of the moment, but in a separate session. Think of, and this isn't just an outline, maybe we can't do it today, but think in advance of what is the setting, where do you want to do it? What could be an icebreaker? What could be a fun kind of a opening? Do you have ideas for visuals and materials that you can use? You can print and laminate, as I had in one of the photos you saw, there was a laminated sheet of rabies symptoms, or what is rabies, from the Global Alliance, which I had printed out and laminated. So existing materials, visuals, storytelling. They don't want to talk about dogs. I know I had that issue and I still face it in my own neighborhoods. I tell you, Aline, if I go to your neighborhood, they may even want to, if we set it up in advance with a meeting with the RWA president, he or she may even want to listen. And if you would come to my neighborhoods, and I would benefit from your presence because you're a neutral person from outside. Therefore, even another tip, don't make it about the dogs, make it about the public space, make it about, the environments, make it about One Health. We're all dependent on a healthy environment, right? And that includes the animals. And maybe we should make it broader, get a poster competition done with children about our block, a greener, talk about animals, talk about plants, talk about green spaces, and start with children with slogans, for example. I'm just giving ideas. They don't want to talk about the dogs immediately, but there is an opening for them talking about, but we can manage this. We can manage better ways to feed the dogs. We can manage better ways to make sure that they are safe, vaccinated, sterilized, that they don't multiply. That discussion will come if you have openings. And sometimes you need to widen it to other species and environment or other animals. The animal kingdom is a fantastic topic with children to start talking about, and then go into the direction of what can we do about the dog issues. And there is a lot we can do. If we look at it in solution orientation, there's a lot we can do. That positive language, instead of complaining, we can take action, and there is a team on the ground. There are a couple of people who want to do something. If you can support and back us up, that's how I came into it. I asked my RWA, if you want to set up a committee, then I'm happy to sterilize and vaccinate the dogs here with a few people in the neighborhood, but I'm not going to do it without your backup. So then it took 2 years and we had 2 more litters and we had 15 more dogs. And they said, oh, so many dog bites. I said, yeah, but 2 years ago I offered and you didn't take it. Now that's a long way. You don't have to wait for 2 years, hopefully. But once they set up a committee, I had backup. I had the RWA backing me up. And that was a big thing. So it takes time sometimes to convince them. But once you have an opening, think of these the ideas for a role play. If you can do it with children in school, role play, demonstration and counter demonstrations. It says all in the manual, you can read again about what does it mean. You can demonstrate something, stand like a tree, and then let them do it. Counter demonstration, right? A role play, we all know, street play. With children and with youth, that is all very well possible. Okay, so again, if you have more questions right now about this, we are not professional educators, so not all of us wants to do a workshop probably. But in case you have an opportunity to get somebody else in, organize that, right? That may really help. And there may be an NGO that who you can call in. So anybody who can say this worked well or this doesn't work in my area, anybody who has, you can unmute yourself or you can type it. Something that you think this will work well. This may not work. Just let's hear from you. Feel free to unmute. Yeah, workshop doesn't work too well. Is that what you're saying? What doesn't work too well? Maybe make it specific rabies related. Just say that, rabies is preventable and this is what we can do about it. The RWA changes by the time we get ears to listen. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's very hard, especially if there are elections, quick elections again. Maybe not start with your own RWA. See if there is another target group that you can start with. At least try to spread this knowledge. The more people know about it, the more it starts resonating in society, the better. And the answer is, it is preventable. We need to do the right things. What are the right things? Just count 1, 2, 3. These things is what we need to do. Okay, so for your information, this is a slide with a lot of free educational resources. And I just made a collection, but I'm sure that some of you have found other information. So if you would like to share that, put it on the WhatsApp group so that others can benefit from it as well. And these are all clickable links, which I will put in the summary, the session summary. Specifically, GARC has, I think, and some of these others also have downloadable resources. So there are in different languages for different target groups, children, schools, the general public, healthcare professionals, veterinary professionals, education professionals, NGOs, different even fact sheets. This is a booklet, Want a Friend. So these are all stories. Want a friend, be a friend. Be sensitive and kind to dogs. I'm not going to open them all, but there are a lot of resources online already, which could be very useful. Keep your pet safe. Anyway. Okay. Let me go back. Mission Rabies has that. FIAPO has some information. The World Health Organization, the chart that I gave you. This is an interesting one also, but in Himachal Pradesh, the experience there on rabies awareness, community vaccination, public education. They have resources that you can use. And Straw India, I just like their guru. I mean, this is so simple. I think there is yes. There's series on the Guru. This is the Super Dog Guru's tips to prevent rabies. It's really, it's really, this is really something for children. Very simple. So yeah, use these materials and I'll share them with you. I know it is not easy, and definitely if it doesn't work with your IWA, see if you can educate others. But do you feel a bit more confident now after having listened to me and all the examples that I've tried to share? Thumbs up or thumbs down, or don't know yet, maybe. Yes, more arenas to try. Good. More options. Good, great. Anyone else? More confident, less confident, or not yet as confident as you would like to be? Okay. So what we'll do now is, okay, this is my last question. Oh, and I just see that Dr. Asher has also joined. Welcome. Dr. Asher, one moment, we are finishing up the session, but thank you for joining. We'll get to you in a second, if you allow me.
Yes, absolutely.
Great,
Take your
great,
time.
great. Wonderful. So I just asked if people wanted to actually have more guidance in planning and outreach. Is there any need? Can you put your hands up or thumbs up if you would like to get more guidance in planning your outreach? Or not now? I mean, today we're not going to do it, but that was more for next week, because I would like to offer that next week, in case you want to, we can get online once again, and you can bring your own outline for a workshop, or your own, struggle or challenge when you have tried to speak to somebody and it didn't work. So like, get some peer feedback in your example. So I would like you to come with your plan for outreach, or with your experience where it didn't work, and see how we can guide and give tips and see how you could do it next time. Is there any need for that? I'll put it on the WhatsApp group and people can actually come back to this later, because I can imagine it may be a bit overwhelming. Can I ask all of you to do the final post-module quiz, and then we'll get ready for the Q&A with Dr. Asher. So if you can go back to the GARC online materials, just go back online and finish up the post-module quiz for module 5, and then we set. I'll give you a minute. And in the meantime, I'll just get ready for the Q&A. I hope, Dr. Shah, are you still at the hospital right now, or?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, you're still waiting. Too bad.
Yeah, so it's getting drips now, so it's slow drips, and it's going to take about half an hour more. So I think we're
good.
okay.
Okay. Then we should make use of this time right now. So I would actually then ask people to come back to the session and finish up your post-module test a little later. Okay, before we do that, quickly, next week we have an exam session for those who want it. I'll put it on the WhatsApp group. The 5th of August, I'll put a poll out and see if people are interested to do the final test together and have that co-creation workshop. Okay, so now we'll go back to the Q&A, and I really wanted to, I'm very grateful, Asher, that you are there. And I know that you are sitting right now with a dog, even who is getting a drip at the CGS hospital. So let's see how long you can be with us. But let me formally introduce you. And people have seen your introduction already on the WhatsApp group also. So Dr. Asher is the founding director of Aloha Ahimsa Foundation, and he serves also as an executive committee member of the Delhi Animal Welfare Board. And he has a lot of experience at the intersection of animal welfare, education, public policy, governance, and he has a very strong focus on humane, lawful, sustainable coexistence also with community dogs. So once again, thank you for joining. Asher, you have also worked closely with the Ministry of Education, with NCERT, and other institutes, states, departments, and policymakers, etc. And we would like to ask you first to briefly introduce the Aloha Ahimsa Foundation and also your experience with educational activities related to rabies. Can you fill us in for a moment? Just a brief intro. Are you, I cannot hear you. Are you?
Sorry, I was speaking on mute.
Oh, sorry. Can you start again?
Sorry, I'll just start again. Thanks a lot, Anna, for the kind words and, for this opportunity to interact with such a lovely bunch of people, compassionate young individuals. We need as many of them as there are, and more. So a little bit about Aloha Ahimsa Foundation. We do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We have a small shelter come sanctuary come home for dogs and other animals, where we've got about 50 of them that live with us. That's the direct care work that we do. Besides this, we feed a few animals around our house, about 50 of them, and take care of the vaccination, sterilization, etc. And we work with the municipal corporation to organize vaccination and sterilization drives for the village behind our place, Rajokri, the Rajokri area. And we also work with the community to try and mobilize feeders and caregivers at a village level, so that the coordination can be done better, and these kind of efforts can be sustained in the long run. Besides this, we also work in sensitizing communities. So we do a lot of sensitization sessions for RWAs, police personnel, animal husbandry department. So, all of these institutions have various roles when cruelty is reported. And, there are procedures involved in reporting cruelty and also kind of documenting evidence, so the post-mortem has to be done, for which the police has to write to the veterinary department. And so, there are lots of procedures, including tagging and the panchnama, etc. And a lot of these police officers are not aware of the procedures involved, right? So we do those sensitization sessions for them and for RWAs and veterinary officers of the government. So that's a little bit of the community level work that we do. And then when you go higher up, we kind of work at the policy level, where we engage with state governments and the central government, primarily in education, where we're working with national bodies like the NCERT, the NCTE, the CBSE, in integrating content related to animals, not just dogs, but compassion for other animals as well, in the curriculum. So we're trying to find some place in the textbooks. We're trying to find some place in the teacher education program in the B.Ed courses. We're trying to find some place in the digital content that nowadays is included with the textbooks. So that's largely what we do. We also work closely with the People for Animals Public Policy Foundation, where they run the Ahimsa Fellowship. So I'm one of the mentors over there. So that's I mean, this is roughly the gamut of work that we do. So from direct care to high intervention policy work.
That's a
So
broad range of activities for sure.
yeah, I mean, like I understand that the policy work is very high impact, and but very intangible. So we try to kind of maintain the balance by also doing a lot of tangible work on the ground. And what is more tangible than caring for actual animals?
Yeah.
So you're actually in touch with what you're talking about, the practice what you
Right.
preach.
Right.
Um,
I would like, first of all, compliment you for all that amazing work that you do. But today we wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that we have some challenges here with the people on the call. We have gone through a lot of theoretical knowledge about rabies, and we wanted to actually get misconceptions and myths out of the way. We wanted to have effective kind of measures because rabies is preventable. We need to do the right things, and people are not aware of that. So now the end of this course is asking us to go out and actually educate people or raise more awareness, sensitize people on rabies in the right manner. The first three modules are more technical on what to do, and the last two modules are how can we actually spread this knowledge. Now we are facing specifically, I'm taking up the point that Harleen was saying, everything that even in the GARC module, a lot of tips are given, what to say, key messages to which audience, how to bring it. We have now talked about, I've shown a couple of examples how we've done it as inspiration, but still she says it doesn't work too well. My RWA doesn't want to listen. Also the elections, by the time we get a listening ear, the elections are coming. So, I mean, how to reach out to these community leaders, because they can also help us if they backing us up in making a change happen for the benefit of the residents, right? So are there any
right.
tips that you have, like how to reach
Um, Right. So I think the one of the most important things, I mean, I can just speak from experience, right? So some of the places where, I've lived in the past, like Munirka, and the place where I live right now in Rajokri, and the JNU campus where we've kind of done a lot of work. In all of these three places, we've had a very effective animal birth control program. And while there will always be naysayers and troublemakers everywhere, but the important thing is to get the majority of the neutral population on your side, right? And I strongly believe that a majority of people are compassionate. It's just that, when two dogs become 20, it becomes a problem for a lot of people, and then dogs start fighting and chasing each other. And a lot of these behaviors are taken care of when dogs are sterilized and vaccinated, right? So I think what we've done is we've just kind of done two things. One is formed a very strong animal welfare committee per se, where it's important to unite all the people who care for animals. So in a particular community, so let's say in RWA, there would be, of course, two or three feeders who are very actively participating, and they look like they're the only ones who actually care for the dogs. Whereas, in any typical RWA, there would be a lot of families who don't really step out and actively take care for dogs, but they don't have a problem with the dogs living there per se, right? It's just a very small handful of people who create all the trouble, and then they influence a lot of others because of all the noise that they make, right? So what we've done in all of these places that we worked is we've kind of gauged the power dynamics that exist. Especially because wherever I've lived as a tenant. So it's very difficult to kind of fight it out when you're a tenant, because they put all kinds of pressures on you. But I've never had to, I've never been in a situation where I've been forced to vacate, or with dogs, or to discontinue my feeding or vaccinating or caring for animals or anything of that sort. Because you need to understand that in most societies there would be people who are permanent members of the RWA, on the council or the committee, who would be either indifferent or neutral or kind of in favor of dogs slightly, right? They just have to be educated about what the role of dogs are. I mean, what the role of dogs is in the community, like the positive differences that they make, like in terms of rodent, at least keeping the rodents out of sight, even if not controlling the population per se, keeping the monkeys out, basically functioning as security guards, accompanying security guards where they are, and the whole idea that you know, removing these dogs from the areas kind of brings in new dogs and who wouldn't be vaccinated, and that kind of increases the uh, the chances of people getting rabies, right? So a few dogs in the locality keep other dogs away, keep newer dogs away, and therefore they function actually as a protecting buffer for the locality, right? So this is something that when you do this, like when you explain this to the people who matter, they are then able to kind of convince the others and shut the others up, when they're trying to create trouble. And we, of course, back it up with all the laws and, all the science and all of that. And at the same time, we also run a very aggressive vaccination and ABC program to kind of
Right.
show them that, okay, this works. Because over the last many years, the dog population has increased, but then within a year, they see, a downward trend and they realize that, okay, fine, this kind of works. Dogs are also, there's no mating aggression, there's no puppy
Yeah.
protection.
Yeah.
There's fewer fights, fewer people getting bitten because of that. So, all of this kind of reduces the risk of rabies, right? So when dogs are well taken care of, they respond with better behavior towards humans as well. That reduces bites. Newer dogs stay away. That reduces bites. And unvaccinated dogs are kept away. Other animals that may potentially cause rabies are also kept away.
Yeah.
So when things are kind of scientifically explained, and conversations are kind of held in private, over a cup of tea, over a cup of coffee. Just call them over to your house, go to their house, seek an appointment, go speak to them, have an informed conversation that this is what the solution is. Give them examples of where you've done this before, other people who've done this and who seen, a remarkable change in the ecosystem that exists in the RWAs.
Mm.
Um, get hold of the seniors who are rational, right? So that is what has worked for
Yeah.
us. Like even in the
Right.
present locality, I live in a place where there are ultra rich farmhouses right across the road, and there are several people who sent their security bouncers to kind of like stop our feeding and all of that. But as usual, there are a couple of farm owners who are sympathetic towards dogs. So we formed a little bit of a WhatsApp group with 3 or 4 of those families, and they shut everyone up. So while we're nobody's over there,
Right.
we give them the legal know-how and everything, and we
Right.
let them do the power play. So that's I mean, it's kind of like a game of chess that you've got to play, because you need to understand that humans are complicated, right? And they will listen to power dynamics, and dogs are like the least powerful. So generally what happens is when you're out there caring for a dog, you're reduced to the value of that dog, right? So when I'm out there caring for a dog, I cannot be a Delhi Animal Welfare Board member or whatever, right? I'm a guy who's equal to that dog at that point in time, as much of a nuisance as that dog is. So you cannot. I mean, from that point to kind of, to fight back is stupid, because you've lost all your power just by descending to the level at which the dog is, right? So that is not the place to fight. You need to kind of dissociate yourself from that and find the power pockets within your locality and educate those people so that they then maintain the balance, within which that framework is made, within which then you can function effectively, right, without being obstructed. So that's basically what I've done. And from places, university campuses like JNU, to like a normal middle class DDA like Munirka, to a hyper rich locality like Grand West and Green Rajokri, also the village population right behind. So on the one hand, we've got extremely uneducated villagers on one side of where we live, and uneducated, hyper rich, uneducated people on the other side. So we've been able to manage all of this by just working with the power dynamics, right? So even with the villagers, you need to speak to the panchayat and try and understand which MLA kind of supports you, and
Right.
so it's all about just working with power
Mm.
equations, right? Because it's not always the logic that works. If you
Right.
don't tie that in with the power politics and the structures that exist in your area, then I think you're just always fighting the right battle, but you're always kind of working uphill, right? I mean, it just takes a lot more out of you to kind of fight your way through. Whereas you can kind of if you do this kind of mapping and speak to the right people, you will realize that all that energy can be actually spent in doing productive work. So I would say that. So that is one thing, speak to find out who the powerful people are who are slightly compassionate, get them on your side. It'll make your work a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
Also, when you organize awareness drives, don't do it by yourselves. Call an important person like an MLA or someone, and then do it in their presence, because all the troublemakers will then shut up and not create that unnecessary trouble. Also, another idea that I've been toying with, and in fact, I've not been successful in implementing that yet, is to get some school kids to kind of do nukkad nataks and things like that. Because generally, children are more compassionate, they're more open to these kind of, ideas of caring for animals. And
So, Ashu, you're breaking up a little bit.
when you, sorry, yeah, okay.
You're now breaking up a little bit, but
just what? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just saying that, get the kids to do some kind of a nukkad natak, or what a nukkad natak is, like a street play.
Yes.
Where they or they can just go around educating the neighborhood, because people tend to listen to kids, right? Because they're kind of disarming, so they don't come attacking them right at the beginning if the kids are speaking. So try and get the younger generation to go engage with people, and also the older, more powerful people to go engage with people. I think these are the two techniques that I would say are the most effective in making your job easy, so that you can put all your energy into positive work rather than fighting elements of society.
Yes. It's again a little bit interrupted, but I think everyone has understood what you said, and I think your tips to get to work on the power play and basically get some people to be ambassadors of the message, work on creating relationships, also bilateral, invite them, have some tea over at a different moment, not right then when you're feeding in the field, and have that conversation maybe in another moment over tea. And bring in some science also, bring in some, kind of rationale examples, what worked in other areas. What you say, children worked really well in our neighborhood. Also, by the way, facts and figures also convinced. That's why we had the website, the Straybody website. Anything that you do to map your dog, like Arlene, you showed the records that you have made on a piece of paper with all the stickers of the vaccinations, that take that along and show and bring the herd immunity argument in. All of that is impressive. It's definitely working towards solutions. And if you show that you're part of the solution, not part of the problem, it may help to convince children. We actually, out of those website profiles, we created postcards and asked people to donate towards the vaccinations of the dogs. And we asked children to go door to door. It was a New Year's greeting, like Happy New Year from the dogs. And here's a postcard. Which dog do you know? And we showed the photos of the dogs. They could pick out a postcard. And then people said, oh, okay, are you doing all that work here? Yes, the children said, yes, this is the group who's doing it. And then they said, how much does it cost for one dog to vaccinate? We said, well, roughly 500 rupees. Oh, here, I want to donate towards one dog. So in a couple of evenings, these children had 14,000 rupees together, and they could vaccinate all the dogs and take a lot of care of the dogs in the neighborhood, just by making postcards with the photos of the dogs, and have the records and the facts and figures of sterilizations, etc. ready. Now, okay, so we can talk a lot about it, but schools, I wanted to just touch on that. If there's anybody else who wants to ask a question, put it in the chat, please. Otherwise, I wanted to ask one question about schools, because we also spoke about school workshops, and you've worked extensively also on education, schools. So if you could just introduce one, say, key lesson about rabies and about community dogs in every classroom in India, what would it be? What would you like children to remember for the rest of their lives?
I mean, not one, but I'd probably say two things. One is just be nice to animals, right? I mean, like, care for them, be nice to them, because animals reciprocate the kind of behavior that they receive, right? So be nice to animals, and if you see anyone being cruel to an animal, stop them and speak up. Speak to your parents, speak to your teacher, get someone to intervene, because that behavior is going to end up harming a lot of other people, because that dog is not going to know that, okay, this is just one person who's going to harm me, right? And the others are, because he's going to be suspicious, he or she is going to be suspicious of pretty much every human being, every new human being that walks by, right? So tomorrow, if an old, like an elderly gentleman walks by with a walking stick and someone hit that dog with a stick, the dog is going to perceive that, he's going to be hit again. Or if he sees a leg and someone had kicked him in the past, or if he sees a hand and someone had slapped him in the past. So, this is how dogs get triggered and they kind of react. Even the dog that I've just gotten in here, we have to keep him in a muzzle every time we pick him up, because, every time he's a very fluffy, cute looking dog, and he's also paralyzed on the hind legs because, he got run over by a car. But, I don't know what triggers him, but, the moment he sees someone's hand, he snaps. Right? So we don't know where it's probably because, someone has slapped him, many times, when he was on the street. So this kind of behavior, aggravates dogs, and it causes a lot of problems. So I think the first message that I would like to give people is to just, you don't have to love dogs. You don't have to care for them. Just let them be, just let them be. That's the least that you can do, is just let them be. Don't harm them in any way, because you're doing more than harming just that dog. You're harming actually a lot of other people while you're doing that, right? And the second thing is, just find an NGO, find people who care for dogs, find, the NCD or whoever, but get someone to come and vaccinate all the dogs in your area, because that is the only way to be safe. Like, that's the only true and sustainable way of being safe, is to ensure that all the dogs around your area are vaccinated. So if someone is caring for animals, don't stop them, don't fight with them, don't make them the problem, because they are actually the solution, right? So these are the two things: don't harm animals, and if someone is caring for animals and vaccinating them, just let them do it. And if no one is doing it, find someone who can.
Yeah,
I think if everyone just does this, I think all our problems are going to be solved.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. I think this is already a good way to close, but I wanted to check in if anybody else is still keen to ask Dr. Asher any questions. Write it in the chat or unmute yourself if you wanted to speak up right now. I have the last opportunity. While people are maybe putting one more question in the chat, my last question, Dr. Asher, is basically about fear. So somebody is giving a compliment, no question, but they got a lot of practical, knowledge to what to do. So thank you for that, Asher. Okay, there is a very specific question. So I had a question about fear, because people are genuinely afraid of dogs and bite incidents, and how we can actually acknowledge those concerns while still promoting this more humane or science-based solution, and kind of suppressing that fear-driven response. What is it that we can try to make people more comfortable in this? And this fear is really taking over now, and hostility and all that fear turns into hostility and cruelty, and that turns back again. It's a negative cycle. So how do we get out of fear? And the question that I will just say Harleen is posting is the second question: how to stop dogs from being picked up by municipalities?
So, I think I'll answer the second question first. I think it's important that we're aware of the laws that exist, especially with all these Supreme Court orders that have come in, and a lot of media channels kind of just, just highlighting all the little tidbits of comments that, the judges have made, and kind of making it sound like, okay, this is the verdict. There's a lot of misinformation doing the rounds, right? So I think as caregivers, I think we need to know what is still legal, what is still not legal, right? So the first thing that we need to understand is the only modification that has happened is for institutional areas, and that too only when shelters exist, right? So you can't just pick up, even from an institutional area, you can't just pick up a dog and relocate it wherever you can. It's only when the designated shelters come up, which have sufficient capacity to keep all the dogs from all education institutes, that you can figure out something like that. So anytime soon, nothing's happening anytime soon. Um, there is no reason for municipal corporations to pick up dogs from your localities unless, of course, it is for sterilization. And if it's for sterilization, just ensure that it's done properly. Just go visit your ABC centers, flag any loopholes or any cruelties that are happening over there. If proper procedures are not being followed, read the revised module for dog population control, so you know what an ABC center is supposed to look like. Go look at some good examples, so work with the municipal corporation authorities to improve that. But apart from that, the only other reason they can pick up a dog is if there's a verified bite. And even in that case, they will take the dog for observation for 10 days. And then, once the observation is done, if they don't have a shelter, they will have to return the dog back, right? So I think this awareness is important. And this is something which no municipal authority will question. So if you can stand your ground and know that, okay, these are the rules, get a printout of the rules, get a printout of all the orders, show it to them, and ask the right questions. And they will not, if a municipal van comes to pick up a dog from my locality, there's no way that guy is leaving with a dog, right? Unless there is a verified bite, in which case, I know exactly how long the dog is going for and that the dog will come back. So one needs to be extremely aware of the laws that exist. Besides, understanding the science behind it, understanding the legalities is extremely important. So read the ABC rules, read the revised module for dog population control, understand how ABC is supposed to work, and ensure that it works in that way, right? So that's how you prevent the municipal corporation from picking up dogs which are not supposed to be picked up. And any other organization that brings private vehicles to pick up dogs is not allowed, right? So you can just report them to the police or just stop them and send them away. Video of them. You get the number plate of the vehicle, get the driver's picture, and then you can of course call the police and get them out of there, right? So be aware of your legal powers, the powers that you can use. So that's important. The other thing is fear, right? I think speaking about fear, I think it's important to acknowledge that,
sorry, I think you're breaking up again. Is it just my connection, or can everybody hear Dr. Asher? No.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you were frozen. Now I can hear you again. Thank you.
I don't know what's happened. I can see two of me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So speaking about fear, I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that not everyone loves dogs. And I think being afraid of dogs is probably a good thing. It's not such a bad thing, right? Because sometimes it's okay to be afraid of dogs, because on the contrary, people who are not afraid of dogs will go and pull their ear, the dog's ear or tail or leg, and then get themselves bitten. So being afraid is all right. Like I said, not everyone has to go cuddle a dog, right? Or, give it, the love or respect or whatever that it's supposed to get, that we feel the dog deserves. I think the important thing is to just leave the dog alone. If you're afraid of dogs, leave the dog alone. And as caregivers, I think that's the least that we can do. That, if we see that someone's afraid of a dog, just take the dog elsewhere, right? Just apologize, and you say, hey, he doesn't do anything, but I respect your fear. We'll go somewhere else. Just take the dog to another corner, feed him there, play with him there. I think that's like the least amount of empathy that we can demonstrate. And sometimes that's all that someone needs. Like most neutral people, that's all that they need. Hey, you know what? They just left, and he's playing with the dog in that corner. They've acknowledged the fact that I'm afraid. And when the time comes when there's some kind of conflict, these people will support you, saying that this guy is, he's always responsible and he's never troubled us. And there are many times in Munirka when I was living with 11 dogs in a DDA apartment. Of course there were problems, of course there were issues, but we always solved those with dialogue, and when people had issues, we sorted those things out, right? And we acknowledged that, okay, this is a genuine issue. dogs bark at night, you're not able to sleep or whatever it is, right? You acknowledge it and you try to solve the problem. And then people come out in support of you saying that, okay, this person, I like the way they deal with this problem, and we support him or her. So I think it's important to acknowledge fear. I think we need to be okay with the fact that people are afraid. And I think it's a good thing for people to be afraid of dogs. As long as, they don't harm them in any way.
Yeah.
Because not being afraid actually ends up harming more dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have a student here on the call. I think you know her, Namyaton. Sorry, I don't pronounce your name. Namiton?
Namyata from JNU. Yes. I've never met her, but yeah, we.
Okay. So people who dislike dogs actually believe that we, the dog lovers, so to say, whereas I'm very hesitant in calling ourselves dog lovers, by the way. Please try to not polarize societies further is my tip. If we call ourselves lovers, then that means that others are haters. And if we are dog lovers, we may be called human haters, and that doesn't bring us anywhere. Yeah. So especially with the rabies knowledge that we have right now, this is public health and safety. This is not just animal welfare. Of course, we do animal welfare for the public health and safety as well. So try to bridge the gap and say, we're part of the solution for you also, right? So try to change that narrative a little bit is what I would say. But she said that people who are not liking the dogs are basically saying that we are jeopardizing that, their health or the people's health basically by keeping the dogs, feeding the dogs and showing concern for the dogs. Whereas we are also trying to build that friendly human animal space, but people don't see it that way. So how to deal with that is what her question is. But I think we have dealt a lot. Do you want to say the last few words about this, Asher? Then we'll close.
Yeah. So I think it's important to know whom to engage with and whom not to engage with. There are some people who just want to create trouble and they'll just create all kinds of narratives. And that they have an ulterior motive. They just don't want the dogs around and they just want to create trouble, right? Engaging with such people is not going to solve anything. So again, like I said, find out the power equation in that environment. Understand who the decision makers are. So is there a warden? This is JNU, right? I'm assuming. Is there a warden in the place? Are they supportive? If the warden in my hostel is not supportive, is there another warden in another hostel who could be supportive and may be able to speak to this warden? Because if I go and speak to this warden as a student, it's not going to be the same as some other senior warden speaking to her and telling her that, hey, these kids are kind of working on solving the problem and these are the rules. So, have these conversations directed through the right power channels so that makes a difference, right? Instead of, that's precisely what I started with. Instead of just going, head on, like, if there's a wall in front of you, you don't go and bang your head on the wall. You get a bulldozer first, right? To find the bulldozer before you attack the wall.
Yeah.
And don't engage with walls, right? Find a door and then walk in through the door and then have that conversation. There are some people who are just walls. Ignore them, right? Change the time, change the location, change whatever, right? I mean, and at the same time, create awareness through the right channels. Organize sensitization drives, have the right people communicate the message. I think that's the most important thing wherever you are.
Right. And I would say over there, you can get an NGO in also. Use others, get some maybe neutral parties in, maybe somebody with a little bit more authority, get a vet or a para-vet who is actually, well-versed with what you do, and see if you can get that person to talk to somebody. So mobilize that support.
And the JNU ABC committee is a very compassionate committee. At least most of it. The security officer, Mr. Naveen, is himself he's not a dog lover, but he's not against anti-dogs either. The chairperson is also someone who has his own dogs at home. In fact, one of his dogs is at our shelter because he was getting a little aggressive. So I mean, just reach out to people like Vipul and or I don't know, just reach out to me if you want. I mean, I'd be happy to kind of guide you as
Yeah.
to whom to have these conversations with.
And
But don't
that's another
engage directly.
point. Yeah, organize yourself on campus, organize yourself in the community, have a WhatsApp group, but try to make it even formalized. Somehow, the RWAs, by the way, have a formal duty to have an animal welfare committee if you go back to the Delhi High Court order of 2021. So if there is anyone who can speak with them, this is what the Strawberry program is trying to convey as well. Anchor it, try to get a structure in place, and that is the support structure that you have.
Form the committee and escalate everything to the committee. Don't engage on a one-to-one level, because you'll always lose if you engage one-to-one.
Yeah. Is it raining?
No, these are mosquitoes.
Oh no, okay. Even more reason for calling it. Then I would say that, save yourself from being bitten.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This was such a good conversation with the people that we are here. We have people who are watching the recording as well. So yes, I would really like to thank you once again, Dr. Asher, to be with us
welcome.
today.
I think I just saw one last question, like who's going to identify if the RWA has a committee? Just go ask, find out who the president is and talk to him and ask if there is one.
Yeah. Yes. We have one, but we can ignore always. Yeah, we are always ignored. Okay. Arlene, can we take this offline? Because I'm really happy to take this forward with you. And this is where I started the Stray Body program, actually. So I would be happy to see if we can step by step give you a little bit of tools and support there and examples. So Arlene, I'll be in touch with you. Okay. Okay. Everyone, thank you once again. So now we basically have gone through all the modules of the GARC course, and I hope that everybody is now basically ready for the exam. The exam, you have two tries. You need to get, I think, 80 points, 80% right. So at least try it once for yourself. If you want to next week, I'll guide you through it in a guided session, but I'll do a poll on the WhatsApp group to see who's interested. If everybody graduates by themselves, very good, and we don't need a session next week. So it's up to you. And please post your certificate on the group. We really want to see who has been certified, and that's for us the ultimate test whether this was a successful study batch. So please post your certificate on the WhatsApp group, and that's it for the evening. I wish everyone a very good evening, all the best, and we'll be in touch bilaterally or on the WhatsApp group. Thanks once again, Dr. Asher. Thanks everybody for joining. And thanks.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. Love the introduction. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you again.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.